The Night's King, the Lord Commander who betrayed the Wall. There are some legends in the history of Westeros that were never truly forgotten, but never fully remembered either. Some live on in songs. Some remain carved into the stones of ancient castles, and some survive only as whispers. And in the history of the Wall, one of the darkest whispers of all belongs to a figure known as the Night's King. But before we begin, there is one very important thing to understand. This is not the Night King from the television show. The figure we are talking about here is much older, much stranger, and in many ways far more disturbing. A man who once stood at the head of the Night's Watch, a Lord Commander whose duty was to guard the Wall. And yet, in the frozen darkness of the North, he betrayed everything he had sworn to protect. All for a woman who may not have been human at all. This is the story of the Night's King. The long night had ended. Humanity had survived. The first men, the children of the forest, and the ancient heroes of legend had endured the war against the others. But victory did not mean peace, because everyone knew the darkness in the far north had not been destroyed completely. It had only retreated. And so, one of the greatest structures in the history of Westeros was built. The Wall, a colossal barrier of ice rising at the edge of the known world. It was not only a wall of ice, stone, and human labor. It was almost certainly strengthened by ancient magic. And to guard this frozen border, a new brotherhood was created, the Night's Watch. These men would take no wives, they would hold no lands, they would father no children, they would serve no king. Their duty was greater than any kingdom. They were meant to guard the realms of men, but over time, even the most sacred vows can begin to fade, because men are weak. The cold can break the body, but darkness can corrupt the soul. According to legend, the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch was once a powerful, fearless, and respected man. Some stories claim he was a Stark. Others suggest he may have been a Bolton. Some say he came from another ancient house of the North. But one thing is certain, he was the master of the Wall. The Night's Watch obeyed him. The Nightfort was his seat, and the frozen North was his world. Until one day, beyond the Wall, he saw something that changed him forever. A woman, but not an ordinary woman. In the old tales, she is described as having skin as pale as the moon, eyes like blue stars, and flesh as cold as ice. Some believe she was one of the others. Some believe she was something even older and more mysterious. No one truly knows what she was, but the moment the Lord Commander saw her, he was enchanted, and from that moment on, the vows of the Night's Watch meant nothing to him. He brought this woman south of the Wall. He took her to the Nightfort, and there, he declared himself king. He was no longer simply the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. He became the Night's King, and the woman beside him became his queen. The reign of the Night's King was not just a simple tale of betrayal. He was not merely a commander who abused his power. According to the legends, he built a dark kingdom at the heart of the Wall itself. The Nightfort was no longer just a castle. It became a place of cold, fear, blood, and darkness. The Night's King began to use the Night's Watch like his own private army, and the most horrifying part of the legend is this. He was said to have made sacrifices to the others. Human sacrifices. His own men, people of the North, or perhaps even innocent souls who had come seeking protection at the Wall. The story becomes very dark here, because no one truly knows how far the Night's King went. But according to the old tales, his reign lasted for 13 years. For 13 years, a kingdom of darkness existed inside the Wall. For 13 years, the honor of the Night's Watch was stained. And for 13 years, the stones of the Nightfort witnessed some of the most terrifying secrets in the history of the North. But eventually, the North could endure it no longer. The fall of the Night's King is just as legendary as his rise. According to the story, two great powers came together to bring him down: Brandon Stark, King of Winter, and Joramun, the king, beyond the wall. This detail is very important because it means the Night's King had become such a terrible threat that even enemies on opposite sides of the wall were forced to unite against him. The Starks came from the south, Joramun came from the north, and together they ended the dark reign of the Night's King. The Nightfort was reclaimed, the Night's King was defeated, and everything he had done was condemned. But the most interesting part comes after his defeat. His true name was erased from history, deliberately, because his crimes were considered so shameful that the Night's Watch and the North did not want his name to ever be spoken again. Who he was forgotten. The house he came from was hidden. His bloodline was left uncertain. Only his title remained, the Night's King. So who was the Night's King, really? That question is one of the darkest mysteries in Westeros history. One of the most popular theories is that he was a Stark. This theory is powerful because the story is deeply connected to the North, to Winterfell, and to Brandon Stark. And if the Night's King truly was a Stark, then the legend becomes even more tragic, because that would mean the man who betrayed the Wall came from the same bloodline as some of its greatest defenders. Another possibility is that he was a Bolton, considering the dark reputation of House Bolton, their ancient practice of flaying, and their long rivalry with the Starks. This theory feels disturbing in a very different way. Some stories suggest he may have been an Umber, a Flint, a Nori, or a member of another northern house. But in the world of George R.R. Martin, sometimes the questions matter more than the answers. The identity of the Night's King is left uncertain, because his name is not the most important part of the story. The real point is this: even the wall can rot from within. What makes this legend even more interesting is the difference between the Night's King and the Night King from the show. At the television series, the Night King is portrayed as the leader of the White Walkers, a supernatural being created by ancient magic, almost like a direct enemy of mankind. But the Night's King from the books is a much more human figure, at least at the beginning. He was a man. He had sworn a vow. He had a duty. He had brothers who trusted him. But then he gave in to desire, power, or perhaps some form of dark magic, and that makes his story even more frightening, because the Night's King reminds us of something important. Sometimes the greatest danger does not come from beyond the wall. Sometimes it comes from inside it. Sometimes the enemy is not a monster hiding in the darkness. Sometimes the enemy is a man who breaks his oath. The Nightfort also plays a very important role in this legend. It was one of the oldest and greatest castles of the Night's Watch. But over time, the Nightfort became more than just an abandoned fortress. In the stories of the North, it became almost cursed, a place used to frighten children, a place filled with old horrors, the legend of the Night's King. The tale of the Rat Cook, hidden passages, dark doors beneath the wall. The Nightfort feels as if it contains every ancient fear of Westeros in one place, and this makes us wonder, maybe the Night's King was not just a simple fairy tale. Maybe this story is the distorted memory of something that truly happened, because history in Westeros often works that way. Real events become legends, names are forgotten, heroes grow larger than life, monsters become more terrifying with every generation. But something always remains, a trace. And perhaps the Night's King is exactly that, a trace of a forgotten betrayal, a buried shame, a dark secret at the heart of the wall. One of the most fascinating things about this story is that we never truly learn what the Night's King became. Was he simply a man under a spell? Did he truly make a pact with the others? Was his queen controlling him? Or did he walk into the darkness by choice? Maybe that is the most terrifying possibility of all. Maybe no one forced him. Maybe the Night's King saw power and chose it. Because in Westeros, the most dangerous people are not always born evil. Often, they are people who make the wrong choice at the wrong moment. A vow is broken, a door is opened, a secret is buried, and eventually history has to erase their name. The legend of the Night's King is one of the most important dark stories after the Long Night, because it reminds us that even though the others disappeared, Their shadow never truly left the world. The wall had been built. The Night's Watch had been founded. Humanity believed it was safe. But only a few generations later, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch himself surrendered to darkness. That is why the story of the Night's King is not just an old tale. It is one of the greatest warnings in the history of Westeros. No matter how high the wall may be, it means nothing if the men guarding it are weak. No matter how sacred a vow may be, it can still be broken by the person who swore it. And the cold of the north does not only freeze the body, it can freeze the soul. Today we do not know the true name of the Night's King. Maybe he was a Stark, maybe he was a Bolton. Maybe he belonged to some forgotten house of the north, but his story still survives. Because in Westeros, some names may be erased, but some sins are never forgotten. The Night's King lost his name, but his shadow remained. In the stones of the wall, in the dark halls of the Nightfort, and in the vows of the Night's Watch. Because every oath exists for one reason, there is always someone who might break it. And the Night's King was the greatest betrayal the Night's Watch ever knew. In the next video, we will move into another age that changed Westeros forever. The coming of the Andals, new gods, new kings, new wars, and an invasion that would transform the world of the first men forever. But for now, the story of the Night's King ends here. A king born in the darkness of the north. A ruler who reigned from the heart of the wall. A man whose name was erased from history. The Night's King. The greatest shame of the Night's Watch. And one of the darkest legends in all of Westeros.